First, I want to apologize. I'm kind of sick last couple of days, and I flew all the way from Bangladesh to here. Maybe I'll not be very flawless. As you see, I take a picture of you guys, and it says I'm a photographer. I'm a photographer from Bangladesh. Growing up during the 90s, early 90s, I always had good style. And this is my first time in Europe, and I only don't like camera equipment. I also love shoes, jackets, and bags. So you always hear about European fashion, and I was really keen to know what is it all about. And the first thing I did, once settling into my hotel, was go and hit the stores in Maastricht. And I was hoping to get some good deals. This is the pictures when I was exploring the stores in Maastricht yesterday. And these pictures are from Bangladesh back home. Rana Plaza. It's an 8-story garment building which was in Dhaka. It was collapsed on 24 April 2013. Well, more than 3,000 workers were working inside. Though the cracks appeared the day before, but they were forced to work in that day. And that day, I remember, it was like other morning for me. I was working at my computer back home, and suddenly my uncle came to me and said, like, come to the television, something tragic happened in Savar. And I ran to the television. What I saw, it was very shocking. I saw like dust everywhere. I saw people like crying, and the newscaster was saying that a building had collapsed. And I just left home right away, took an auto rickshaw to get there. Once I got there, I couldn't go much closer because the road was blocked. So I had to walk. And from a distance, I started hearing the voice of people, screaming, crying. And as I got more closer to the site, I saw like dead bodies. People are, everywhere. It's a big chaos. And rescue workers trying to rescue people there. Suddenly, I feel like I'm in a war zone. I never covered war before, but it was like so heavy. The whole scenario was so heavy and emotional that it seemed more worse than a war what I have seen in media. And really, I was struggling emotionally. And I was like feeling very overwhelmed with the whole situation. And like first few hours, I was shaking. I was like trembling, like what I would do because, like so many people and like wounded people. You can see like how they were rescued. It was very much emotionally draining for me. Around 7:30 that evening, 2 volunteers workers came to me and asked me like, would you come with us? And I said, yes, let's go. And I went with them, and they like threw some rubble, pile of clothes, wires. I went with them, and I saw 2 dead bodies. The woman's face was covered with a black cloth, and they're kind of clinging each other, huddling each other, and that's their last moment before they die. And this is how I went through the rubbles and all this chaos. And this is the picture. This is the moment I have seen when I got there with the volunteers and workers. In that moment, I realized it was my responsibility to bring the voice of these people to the rest of the world through my photographs. And I started shooting. Though I was like feeling like I should like physically help and also take pictures, but this moment helped me to bring their voice out more. I feel like the people all around the world should see these pictures and like listen their voices, the untold voices. And this collapse is considered one of the worst industrial accidents in the history. And many of them lose their limb, family members, and still many of them are not compensated by the companies who had their claws in the factories. And when I look back my pictures, I still hear their voice in my head. After 4 months of the collapse, I went to New York City. And it was for a photojournalism workshop. It calls A.D. Adams Workshop, and where like all the world-renowned photojournalists and photo editors meet and share their knowledge and experiences. And it was my third visit to New York, and I really love the city. It's like very sturdy, very live, and like lots of people, and it has lots to offer. And yeah, I mean, I really like the city. A part of that, affection, I had really traumatizing and unpleasant memories from there. Because when I saw the big stores, fancy stores, like big stores like Joe Fresh and JCPenney, the tags I have seen in the rubble, that truly flashbacking my memories from the collapse. The discount signs, it's like it was totally traumatizing for me. Then I couldn't understand how the glass of wine I would buy at dinner would be cheaper than a pair of jeans on sale. Or when going out to dinner with friends in New York, paying for the bill, how the total could be as much as garment workers earn in 1 month. How can a garment only cost 9 euros when you think about everything that is needed to sell that pair of pants for only 9 euros? The cost of electricity, of the big store, the gas to the plants, and also the shipments and other costs. You realize that somebody must be losing here. So if a company is still making a profit of this cheap clothing, what is the real cost of fashion for the individuals who buy them? And again, who is losing? I couldn't settle my mind, and it became a personal issue to figure out how could I take their voice much further. I didn't want the world to forget about Rana Plaza. I wanted to be a long-term solution and remembrance about that. I knew that the photographs would eventually be buried under the news, and they would be forgotten if I didn't make any long-term project or something. I realized it was my personal responsibility to spread my photographs, show the unjust life of garments workers, hoping to motivate foreigners to take actions. I knew that it needed to be asked, questioned on a larger scale, to decide to collaborate with, I decided to collaborate with a friend. He's a filmmaker from New York, Nathan Feach. We collaborated on a project called Cost of Fashion, where we made a documentary about the Western consumerism. And also Nathan and I collaborated with other people, like other organizations like International Labor Rights Forum, Illuminator, 99 Pickets, Drum. And we all together, on the first night of Fashion Week in February 2014, we did a protest night. We projected my image from the collapse onto the building of the Lincoln Center, and also the stores who didn't pay the compensation, like Children's Place, compensation to the Rana Plaza victims. As the night progressed, I got really good reaction from the people on the street. And I remember one old lady came to me and said, like, how the big corporation destroying the future of the world, how they're like, exploiting the workers in third world countries. And that has a bigger impact in Western world. These are the pictures I was projecting in New York. Also, we have a website called costoffashion.org, which has a lot of information about that, and also it tells how to take action and to knowledge about the collapse and this issue. And also this year, on the anniversary of the Rana Plaza collapse in April, our documentary, The Deadly Cost of Fashion, got published in New York Times, and it has been viewed more than 500,000 times since then. After the line, through the protest, the creation of the video, and the project, my goal is not only bringing awareness to the issue at hand, but also to the work that remained to be done. Over 100 apparel brands and retailers have now signed the Accord on Fire and Building Safety in Bangladesh, commuting to work together to ensure safety in almost half of the country's garment factories. And very interesting to know, among them 18 Dutch factories, Dutch companies are there, like Fashion Link, G-Star, Hema, Holland House Fashion, and many others. I'm not here tonight to tell you to shop, not to shop at those stores, or how would feel about those offers, discounts offer, like cheap clothes offers. It's true that as a global society, we must start thinking about what companies we support. For our economic choices, we have power. We have a lot of power, and they got a very long way. And unfortunately, more often than not, our economic choice have long-lasting consequences on vulnerable communities. And it is not only true with this clothing industry, also with the gold, diamond, and cell phone industries. When I think about these issues that our world faces, I feel overwhelmed, helpless, not knowing where to begin and how to start. I can bet many of us here also feel the same way when they see the news and they think, who am I? What can I do about these people of thousands of miles away? Well, this is exactly how I felt on the first day of Rana Plaza, watching in horror at the destruction and chaos before my eyes. The day and the days thereafter, I felt so much individual responsibility, but I felt so suffocated the weight of that responsibility. But slowly I started to reach out to the others who were also feeling that weight. Together we lifted that weight, and together we spreaded awareness about Rana Plaza. I collaborated with many people, not only just photographers. I collaborated with artists, I collaborated with filmmakers, I talked to the people in the street, I talked to radio hosts. And through this collaboration, the weight of responsibility was no longer a weight. It was a push, a motivation, an energy source to do more. Together, we support each other. Our efforts were multiplied. Our energies feeding off each other. So today I'm here to tell you that yes, it's true that we are all only one person, but together we are more. We are few. We can be 100, we can be 1,000, or even million. Today I'm here to tell you that the best way to tackle the weight of individual responsibility is to fire with a passion and then find others who are just as passionate. And then as individual, we work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much.